Episode 176, Creating Quizzes to Generate New Leads. This Week in Weddings is a support group for wedding industry entrepreneurs.
We're the ones behind the scenes, planning and designing the event, arranging the flowers, creating the invitations, or taking the photographs for a couple's most important day ever. No pressure.
If you've been in the wedding industry for more than a minute, you know it's not all cake and confetti. Running a wedding business is hard, and it's certainly not for the faint of heart.
This Week in Weddings is where we catch up on this often crazy but amazing industry and share tips on how to be a better business owner, all while supporting each other along the way.
You're listening to This Week in Weddings with Kimberly Rhodes and Annie Roach. Hey guys, I'm Kimberly Rhodes, owner of Hitched Events.
And I'm Annie Roach, owner of 5x7 Designs.
Welcome back to the podcast, y'all.
Welcome. Hey, Kimberly, pop quiz.
Yes. Oh, we are talking about quizzes today.
How can you help support the podcast?
Oh, I like the quiz and I know the answer to that quiz.
But yeah, we've got, if people are not aware, listeners are not aware, it takes a lot of hustle, it takes money too behind this podcast.
You know what? Here's the deal, Annie. I honestly didn't care how much money it took before, but now Mama needs some money.
Yeah. When we had a cash flow, it wasn't that
big
bad.
of a deal to take money out of my own pocket to educate the world. But now it is time to pay it forward, y'all.
Mm-hmm. I like that.
Was that the answer to your quiz?
Yeah, the answer to our quiz is through Patreon.
It's true.
And we've got 3 different levels. It's not a giant investment, but
it's
cheap.
Cheap.
Every little bit helps, guys.
Every little bit helps. You can go to thisweekinweddings.com/support. If you have gotten something out of the podcast in the last 175 episodes.
If you haven't, just stop now.
That's hilarious. Push pause. But if you have, if you're listening, thisweekinweddings.com/support. As little as 10 cents a day, y'all. That's it. Mm-hmm. Helps us put this into the world. But speaking of quizzes, we're talking about quizzes.
Yeah. This quizzes, have you taken, I mean, I'm sure we all have taken those like Facebook quizzes. It's funny. I had
what does your name mean?
Yeah. I had a client, this was several years ago, who they took a quiz and I think like about what's your spirit animal. And the girl was a deer and the boy was a squirrel. So for their save the dates, they wanted to incorporate a deer and a squirrel in their save the dates. Yeah.
Did you make like a family crest with a deer and a squirrel?
No, we did a really cute letterpress of this like deer and a squirrel. Yeah, it was really funny.
That's amazing. I actually have taken some of those quizzes. I've stopped more recently because I'm like, oh, you're going to ask me for my email address at the end.
Yeah. That's the thing. Or like, you know, like I like is this Chinese spyware? Like, you know.
Yeah. Isn't it all Chinese spyware?
I know. My husband always says that. I'm always like, what are really people gonna like? If they spy on me, what are really they gonna get? Like, not much.
Yeah. Well, this week we are talking all about quizzes and how you can use these online quizzes that we all have seen everywhere, Instagram, Facebook, to generate new leads for your business.
This will be interesting because, Katie Doherty, who has been on the show before, now second timer, coming on and talking about it. And she kind of approached us and I was like, I didn't even think of this as a way to generate leads.
I mean, honestly, I actually also will give Katie credit because Katie's last episode was about making money while you sleep. I feel like I need to go back and listen to that one currently.
We need that money.
Listen to make some money while I sleep. With over 6 years of experience photographing intimate weddings, Katie Doherty has traveled from upstate New York to Bali to Tuscany to document unique love stories. Runaway Together, an elopement photography studio based in Los Angeles, emerged from Katie's desire to work with unconventional romantic couples who are up for an adventure. Katie adores photographing elopements because they are often a no-fuss, no-muss approach to getting married. Couples have described her images as nostalgic, poetic, and cinematic. Katie is also the host of the Runaway Together podcast, a resource for couples who are considering an elopement. On the show, she's able to share her love for travel and inspiring places around the world to elope. She enjoys researching stunning, unique ceremony locations and assists couples in finding the best places to stay, dining options, and things to do for fun in any given city. This eases the couple's stress and simplifies planning.
When Katie's not photographing weddings, she loves documenting her travels. She's constantly on the lookout for landscape and natural scenes to create fine art prints and has partnered with the likes of Samsung and Urban Outfitters. Lastly, Katie is the co founder and chief creative officer of LaRousse Shop, which sells glass photo boxes and other elegant packaging products to photographers.
Let's welcome back to the show Katie Doherty.
Welcome, Katie. We're so excited to have you again.
Yeah, thanks for having me back.
Welcome back. Okay, we always ask our guests, as you know, to tell us their backstory, how they got into the wedding industry. So tell us a little bit about that, and then we'll dive into the whole quiz thing.
Sure. Well, I started out as an elementary school teacher, so I kind of did a big career switcheroo into photography. And I think it started out with me just taking pictures of friends, like engagement type photos. And then I realized really quickly that big weddings weren't exactly my thing. It just was a little too fast paced and like a little bit stressful for me. So I decided to really specialize in intimate weddings and elopements. And so I've been doing that now for about 6 years. And especially now, it's a really good time to elope when, big
The world is
gatherings.
chaos.
Yeah, exactly. So that's how I kind of got into the wedding industry. And then I have a little e-commerce shop as well that sells packaging products to photographers. And so I just, I've been doing this for about 6 years now.
That is amazing. And Annie and I were chatting about the whole quiz thing because I feel like every time I'm on Instagram or Facebook, it's like, hey, here's the new quiz that people are asking about. Is that kind of where you got this whole idea?
Where did this idea come from? I get like at least 5 new ideas a week in my brain. And so, gosh, it's hard to keep track of like the actual inspiration, but I think maybe just like seeing those BuzzFeed quizzes of like, I can't think of a better example of like which Disney princess are you? And I was like, that's a really good idea because people love to know things about themselves, they're so interested. And so I think, after just seeing them, I'm like, I think I could do that. And I found the perfect little software that I can talk about more.
Awesome.
Yeah. Okay. So it's like, just dive right in. Like, because I honestly don't even know if I was going to make a quiz, how would I even make a quiz?
Or like what my quiz would even be about. Like, yeah, this is very interesting to me. And I like the idea of generating leads because I'm not getting that many leads right now.
Exactly. Okay. So I use a website called Outgrow. And basically, it's just allows you to make quizzes that have different outcomes depending on what the user enters in as their responses.
And
so,
Katie, did you just like Google how to make a quiz online?
Exactly. Yeah. I think this is like one of the top results that came up and I just went for it. So the quiz that I created, let me start there, is called Where in the World Should You Elope?
Cute.
Yeah. And so I was like, okay, what are some of the places? The first thing that I did was start brainstorming like some of the outcomes or the results. So to do this, you're kind of starting with the end in mind and working backwards sort of to create the questions. So just stop me at any point if I need to clarify something. But the first step was I just started putting elopements into different categories, like a city elopement, a national park elopement. I have one called Viva Las Vegas, a travel extravaganza, tropical paradise. And so you want to kind of brainstorm maybe 4 to 5 possible outcomes or results before you even start.
And those would be like your 4 or 5 Disney princesses, like the end answer.
Exactly. And I'm trying to think of some other, like depending on what industry you're in, like some other, I think people really like to know about like what style, like what's your wedding style or
what's your wedding color or wedding palette? Or
yeah, exactly.
Your wedding dress. What style wedding dress?
Dress would be fun for sure. Or, hair, if you're into like hair and makeup, maybe, you want to go
Yeah.
into like that kind of style. So after you
Annie,
have,
you could do like your invitation style. Like, is
Yeah.
it letterpress or is it foil
Yeah.
stamping or is it, you're super traditional and,
yeah,
that kind
or
of thing.
something like the font, like do you like a more modern?
All answers lead to very expensive. Just kidding. Just kidding. Just kidding.
um, okay, so does that make sense? The first
Yeah.
step?
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure.
And then the second step is to brainstorm the kind of things that these people would like to do. So, for example, um, like I kind of asked myself, what would this couple like to do for fun? Like if they want to, if their outcome would be getting married in Vegas, what would they do for fun? Are they like super outdoorsy or not so much? Do they travel a lot or do they stay close to home? Like, are they willing to splurge on their elopement? Or are they working on the budget? And so, for example, the couple who would have city elopement as their outcome might be into museums or architecture or great coffee or having a lot of dining options. And then the national park outcome, I kind of catered more towards like these people like to be outdoors a lot. They're really
Katie,
into
I took
nature.
I took your quiz and I would be a city elopement.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. So my next husband, we will do a city elopement.
Does that feel true to you? Like, does it feel accurate?
Yeah, yeah. I feel like, I mean, now I'm not doing much traveling, but yeah, I think I would be, I'm not an outdoorsy person.
Gotcha. Yeah, so the city elopement was my way of kind of summing up like maybe, you want to do a New York City Hall type elopement, or even in LA, there's some really cool places to elope and like doing more of a city hall type situation, or you could stretch it to Paris or just those big cities where there's lots going on. Um,
Katie, I have a couple questions real quick.
yes.
When you are thinking through your outcomes and the characteristics of each outcome, I've always kind of wondered this about quizzes, honestly. It's like, could you have similar characteristics of different outcomes, if that makes sense? Like sometimes I'm like, should I go take this again and just answer one question differently to see if I get a different outcome? Or is it like all of the different outcomes, the 4 or 5, have very specific characteristics that don't overlap? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it does. And I think the first thing you said was more accurate. Like there is a little bit of crossover, and I've actually seen some people take my quiz more than once,
Oh,
probably to
yeah.
see if they got a different
Yeah.
answer.
Like, I don't like the end result. Let me take it again.
And that was the case where they just tweaked like one or two responses and they got a different, outcome. So when you're filling out or on the back end of Outgrow, you can actually like one response can have multiple outcomes. Like you
Gotcha.
don't have to just choose like this answer means city and this answer means travel extravaganza. So and I've tweaked it since I started it because I was like, too many people are getting this city elopement one. I need to like,
Mhm. You're like, I want to go to Paris.
Yeah.
I need to change those up.
Yeah, exactly. But I've gotten a pretty like even span of like all the different outcomes, which is kind of interesting. Well, Vegas doesn't come up too often, but I still think there's a fun way to do Vegas.
So what is the Vegas people? What are they answering? Are they answering?
Yeah, good
Like,
question.
I love Elvis.
That's funny. Okay. There's this really awesome venue in Vegas called the Sure Thing Chapel. And it's like a very chic, like modern venue that caters toward like elopements and small things. So let me pull up, I had it open because I want to just read you like some of the things that I had in mind for the Vegas one. Okay, so one of the questions was, how spontaneous are you and your partner? And the answers are, we like to plan everything far in advance, or we'd get married tomorrow, or a loose plan is nice, but we need some time to think things through. So, like in my mind, we'd get married tomorrow, like we're going to Vegas, that kind of like fits in that mentality to me.
Are all of the quiz questions like multiple choice?
Oh, yes. Good question.
Okay.
They're all multiple choice. Um, there are some options where like you can choose a picture. Like I did do one like, but it's still like check boxes, which wedding dress style appeals to
Mm.
you. So like for the Vegas one, for example, um, I like non-white is one of the options. And to
Mm.
me, like somebody who's a little funky, maybe like into something a little bit alternative, might want to choose
Mhm.
that kind of thing. So, um, yeah. And then like budget is another question. What kind of budget are you thinking? We're willing to splurge. To me, that's like more of a travel extravaganza. Trying to keep it simple and inexpensive. That could be Vegas or like a national park type thing. Um, and then, yeah, does that kind of give you an idea?
Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then my other question is Outgrow, when you were Googling how to create a quiz online, is that a paid source? How does that work?
Yes. So Outgrow, there was a free trial, I want to say like 2 weeks, but it is $22 a month. So you have to kind of, if this brings you one qualified lead a month, I feel like it's worth it. But
Yeah.
yeah, you just kind of have to weigh that. It's $22 for the plan that I have.
And then, Katie, are you doing multiple quizzes or are you just starting off with one?
I'm just doing one. To be honest, it took a bit of work to get this up and running and like having I was going to talk about it a little later, but like having someone write the outcomes for me and getting the Pinterest ads up and all that. So for now it's one, but I don't know what I would do if I did another one.
And I was saying to Annie that like I used to take quiz all the time until I realized that everyone wants my email address. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming that's kind of the goal is like you take a quiz, enter in your email address to get the results. Is that a true statement?
Exactly. So the first page that they see is like a landing page that has where in the world would you elope, enter your name and email. So they actually have to enter it in before they even start the quiz.
Oh, I don't actually know that I've taken a quiz like that. I feel like the ones I've taken, like you go through the quiz and then it's
Or to,
enter
to
your
get the
info for
result?
the results.
That's
Yeah.
interesting. I wonder if that would increase how many people complete it, you
I
know?
think it probably would, at least for me, because I would
Right.
probably like bypass it if you're asking me for my email address before I know anything about the quiz.
True. That's a good point. I wonder if I can change that order of like when they do
Yeah.
things.
So the whole goal is really to get the email address, to get the lead captured so that you can then market to those people.
Exactly. And the beautiful thing about it is like I know that these people are at least a little interested and curious about eloping. I mean, do I know that they're really planning a wedding right now? No, but like at least that interest is there and then exactly
Yeah.
they're going to go onto my email list.
Well, they're like of the maybe of the age of getting married. They're thinking about getting married. Hopefully, it's not like a 6-year-old
Right. That would be weird.
on
Yeah,
their mom's computer or something. Yeah.
exactly. Um,
So
yeah,
tell us a little bit about how this has been successful for you. Like how many leads you're getting in with this whole quiz phenomenon. Because obviously it's something that's been successful for you.
exactly. Definitely. So I have to say that when I just had the quiz, out there, I did a little Pinterest pin. I put it on in my Instagram bio. I was still kind of getting crickets. So the true success on like lead generation came when I started doing ads on Pinterest. So I literally went from getting 0 new emails or leads a day before I was, made the quiz or before I started promoting it on Pinterest to like, I think the most I got was 10 new emails a day. And I've only been
Mm.
running the ad on Pinterest, I think, for a couple of weeks. So it hasn't like built up to like a crazy number yet, but like it has been very consistent since I started. So, um, what I'm doing with those is I always don't know how to pronounce this, Zapier or Zapier.
Oh, Zapier, I think.
Zapier. So every time somebody completes the quiz, they automatically, I have like a Zap, new lead comes in on Outgrow, add it to my MailChimp email list.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's like an automated trigger. And my emails are actually just more information. I'm trying to give these people value, and more like just insight on what it takes to elope. And I'm kind of passing them or pushing them toward my podcast because I have like lots of information on there. So yeah, the hope is that these, obviously I don't know the percentage yet of like who might convert, but that's my plan.
Yeah, that's awesome. I feel like I keep hearing about the importance of an email list and having an email list and growing that email list. And
Yep.
it's something I have not done a good job on, to be perfectly honest.
Because it's hard. I think it's hard to, I've been in business for 6 years, and this is my first, like, I feel like success at growing a list.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think it's that like self-interest piece and the freebie, like the
Yeah.
freebie of somebody, they need something to join your list. They're not just going to like give you their email for nothing.
Yeah, for sure. And is Pinterest ad something you just like figured out on your own?
Yeah, it's a pretty basic, like, there's not too many options. Like, I think it's easier to navigate than like Facebook ads, for instance, but I can tell you some of my settings of like what I left alone and what I changed. Okay, so
Annie, now that you have a Pinterest,
I know
and
I can do
taken
this
the
now.
Pinterest course, this would be great for you.
Yeah. No, I'm interested to hear kind of like what you're saying about Pinterest. I would almost think it would be also Facebook would be a great generator too. I think also because I know personally I feel like I am on Facebook more than I'm on Pinterest, just like me as a user. But no, I am curious to hear how you're using it for Pinterest.
Yeah, I would be open to going on Facebook too. But for Pinterest, I just created a graphic, a vertical one, because that's kind of favored on Pinterest in Canva. So I just created like, an eye-catching picture of this cute couple. And then it says, where in the world would you elope? Like, take the quiz. As kind of text overriding the photo. And I started running ads on like June 29th. And I've spent about $50. So I set it to $5 a day. And that is enough for me now. Once I've like perfected it, I might like bump up the daily, but like $5 a day seems good for me right now. And so that gave me 454 clicks. And then I think about like 10% of those people actually like filled out the quiz. And then
Katie, I really feel like that 10% would be higher if the enter your email address was at the end. I really do. And I'm saying this from a user perspective.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, why would I give you my email address? What are you giving me? You're not giving me anything yet.
Right.
But if I took the quiz and was like, oh, now I really want to know.
It's a really good point. I think you're right about that, actually. I'm going to see if I can I'm sure there's a way to like switch the order of the pages.
Yeah.
We'll
have to have you back on to tell us how that goes.
Yeah.
So kickback.
I didn't change any targeting. I might now start to tweak stuff, but like I just left the interests and the keywords blank. I did change to female only, ages 25 to 44. And then I changed the location to USA only. And then I will say that the first time this is important actually, the first time that I submitted the ad to Pinterest, it wasn't approved because it linked straight to my Outgrow quiz, and they didn't like that. I guess Pinterest doesn't like to see pages that go like straight to enter your name and email, which might not be a problem if I put it at the end. But so what I did to get around this was just create a blog post on my website with all the outcomes typed out. So it actually says like, these are the options, and this is like the paragraph of the outcome with some photos. And then like I created a take the quiz button, and Pinterest approved that. So
it's actually probably good too to direct them to your website anyway, because then they could, even if they don't take the quiz, maybe they'll just poke around.
Exactly. Yeah, I had that thought as well. So that's what I would recommend, is creating some kind of blog post or page on your website dedicated to this quiz.
Yeah.
And Katie, you said that you did like females? Are you feeling like, is it because Pinterest is more of a female
I think so.
use
I think so.
program versus male?
Yeah, exactly. That was my theory anyway. And I don't know if maybe I'm wrong, but I just don't think guys are really into quizzes, and at least not about this, like maybe
Like,
something
pick
else.
your favorite beard
Beer,
style,
exactly.
or your favorite brewski. I don't
Yeah,
know. I'm really stereotyping.
no, same.
Sorry guys.
Sorry,
Yeah,
Sorry
dudes.
guys. Sorry dudes.
but I actually
I
last
also
night,
would think
yeah,
even if there's not more women on Pinterest, which I would assume that there is, but I would also think who are looking for wedding things would be female anyway. Like
exactly,
on Pinterest looking at wedding things.
exactly.
More female.
And I just started playing around last night with like a little bit more targeting. So instead of like anywhere in the US, which was fine to start out, because I have the assumption that people might travel to elope. But I started entering in, it's really cool in Pinterest because you can target zip codes.
Mm.
So I started like Googling like ritzy zip codes, like Beverly
Yeah, I know
Hills
too. I know.
and like San Francisco, New York City, like that kind of thing. And so you can do New York City. I was just trying to think of places where people might have, you know, a little bit of money to spend. And then also interests, I narrowed it down to weddings and art was the other one. I'm just kind of playing around with some of the settings and trying to narrow it down a little so I get more qualified leads.
Yeah. So, Katie, my question to you is once you get these leads from the quizzes, what are you doing with them next? If that
Yeah,
makes sense. Because that's probably the most important part of the quiz situation is like you have them. How are you like continuing to like foster that lead?
sure. I'll share something first that didn't work, and then I'll tell you what I'm doing now. So it's like, oh, these leads, like these people want to elope. They want me to be their photographer. It was too soon. So
Yeah.
I started
Did you send him
emailing.
like the creeper email like, "Hey, this is
Yeah,
Katie.
yeah,
When
exactly.
Here's my
yeah,
contract.
when's your here's your contract. We're gonna I'll see you in
See you in
Paris
Vegas.
in
Exactly.
2025."
Yeah. So I did start reaching out to a couple people or a few people, and it was too soon. Like, I think mostly no one responded to me. And there was one girl actually who did respond, and she said, I've been listening to your podcast. I love it. So it wasn't like a total waste of time, but I was like, I think these people need to like trust me a little more. They need to like know
Mm,
what I'm about. I'm not just going to like, you know, talk to them right away. So my
yeah.
ultimate goal is to get these people on like what I call a discovery call,
Mm,
just to talk to them. It's free. Even if their plans aren't like all set out, I just kind of want to chat and see, get them on the phone basically. So with my email series, I have something at the beginning that's just a welcome. I'm focusing on adding a lot of value. I point them to my blog, which has like, I'm trying to repurpose content really instead of like
yeah.
rewriting stuff. Like I have so many blog posts that I just want to make sure people see. So I'm doing like a little blurb inside the email and then linking it to my blog with some kind of call to action at the end, whether it's like follow me on Instagram, forward this to a friend, book your free discovery call. And I'm just sending those out like once a week, but it's automated. So
Yeah.
I set that up in MailChimp.
I mean, I feel like you're doing everything right. I feel like everything you hear about the email list and the frequency of sending, I feel like you're
Mhm.
doing all of those things that we should be doing.
I hope so. I feel like I feel good because I finally feel like I got the hang of it. Yeah, like I've heard these things for years. Don't ask
Right.
me why I haven't been doing it all along, but it seems to be working now. Have you had anyone on your show like that talks about building an email series
Um,
recently?
well, let's see, not recently. We did have Christy
Mhm.
Drago
Mhm.
Price talking about email newsletters and like writing those so that people stay subscribed.
Mhm.
But
But
we
I
really
just
haven't had it like we haven't really talked about building an email list and how to utilize that. So that could be a good future
Yeah, I think
episode.
so. And I think the key is just automating it so that it's a trigger, once a week or once however, you sit down and you write them in one chunk, and then you have it ready to go for the next month or whatever.
Yeah.
That's my plan.
I mean, I feel like this was a really genius idea, Katie.
Thank you.
Well, and I feel also you could even partner up, like as a photographer, you could even partner up with venues and be like, what's your, style, but it could lead to a venue, and you have these beautiful pictures of these venues that you've worked weddings before. It can almost be a collaboration doing that together as well.
I like that. Yeah, I think that another cool one could be just like, what's your dream wedding venue? And you could pick, 5 venues that you yourself really want to work at or have worked at, from a photographer's perspective or even a planner's perspective.
I also feel like, Katie, you could do, once they have their results, like let's say their city wedding, like their results could link back to a real wedding on your blog. Yeah. That's like, hey, you're a city wedding. Let me show you this city wedding.
Exactly.
Just to keep them like on your site. Okay, so tell me this. When the quiz, okay, let me think for a second. The Pinterest links them to a blog post on your page saying, take the quiz.
Yes.
Then they take the quiz. They put in their email address. The results come by email, or does the results take them to a different page of your website?
Both. So it'll immediately display the results, like when they answer the last question. But then I also have you can set up in the back end of Outgrow, like email notification, and it'll email them. And then I also have at the end of that email, like their results, and then like a little call to action at the end of it, which is right now I have it set as book your discovery call. But again, I think that might be too soon. So I might think like of a little smaller call to action.
Yeah. Do you find, or do you see in your like back end results, people who get their results and then immediately unsubscribe?
That's a good question.
That just me that does that?
No, actually, I think most people, so far out of all the leads, I think there's been about 5 unsubscribes. So that's not a huge amount.
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think, and another cool thing I wanted to mention about Outgrow is you're getting so much interesting information about like your ideal customers, I guess, like, or your potential customers, because, they're saying like not only their style and like what kind of dresses they might like and, what's their ideal honeymoon and things like that. But you also get to see their like IP address, which is kind of creepy, but like you see exactly their location without them telling you. So I can see exactly, now that I changed my settings, like I'm getting more from New York City now instead of just like random places around the US.
Yeah.
Which is cool.
So Katie, you do a lot of travel, or used to do a lot of travel, I assume.
Yeah.
Do you think that this quiz thing works well for someone who is not like in the wedding industry, but very local, if that makes sense? Like if you're a DJ that really works in one market, do you think this quiz thing would work for them?
Yeah, that's interesting. I think that within Pinterest or Facebook or wherever you're running your ad, you just have to target your specific area instead of like leaving it open to anyone, anywhere. I think that would be the key, so that you're not getting really random stuff.
Yeah. I could think of like a million different quizzes for different categories.
Oh, tell us.
I was thinking of DJ, and I was thinking like, what's your first dance song, or like your ideal dance song? And it could be, if you want, I don't know, Michael Bublé versus John Mayer,
That's good. Yeah. Or something like more old timey, like Sam Cooke.
Yeah. Yeah. Or like a Beatles song. I mean, like those are totally different kind of personality types, I guess I would say. And like you could even do like, if you're a cake baker, like different cake styles of like, is it the naked cake? Is it a simple single tier? Is it cupcakes? Or is this
Sure.
giant, like 6-tier monstrosity?
And flavors and yeah, all that stuff. That's good.
It's endless possibilities for quizzes. Annie, I've written yours in my head as well.
Yeah, no, I like it. And then Katie, you said you worked with like you can work with a copywriter, or did you
Yeah.
personally work with a copywriter to do the wording for you, help you with
Yeah,
that?
thank you for bringing that up. This is a big tip for me. Like I actually feel pretty confident writing, but I was getting stuck. I was like, I could probably do this, but I had a friend who is a copywriter, and I was like, I'm just going to ask her to do it. And she did such a good job. So I can read you one of the outcomes if you want to hear what it sounds like. But I basically just gave her like the outcomes. I was like, can you write a paragraph or two? I wanted it to be pretty detailed. Like you could just write a few sentences, but I wanted it to feel like very customized. So I had her write like 1 to 2 paragraphs, and yeah, she just kind of went with it. She did a great job. I can share her name because she said she'd be into doing more of these quiz outcomes.
Oh, awesome.
Her name is Kaylee, and her website is kayleevandenberg.com. I can send you the link later.
Yeah, we'll put the link in our show notes.
Sure.
Since I feel like there's 18 different versions of how to spell Kaylee.
Yes. Okay, so for example, let me read you this outcome. I'm going to read you
Let's do Vegas.
I was going to read the Vegas one. Okay, great. All right, this is Viva Las Vegas. Getting hitched in Vegas doesn't have to involve too many tequila shots and photos with Elvis. The Sure Thing Chapel in vintage Las Vegas is about as good as it gets. It's simple, elegant, and modern, so don't be afraid to experiment with your outfit. I love the idea of a white jumpsuit and colorful pumps. Oh, and if you really want that picture with Elvis, they can make that happen too. After you tie the knot, venture a few hours outside of Sin City and soak up the beauty of the Sonoran Desert. Spend a couple days relaxing poolside at the Ace Hotel in the mid-century modern Mecca of Palm Springs. Then settle into a stylish Airbnb situated among the Joshua trees in one of the more remote areas of the Coachella Valley. Spend your days hiking and your nights by the fire. And if you time it just right, you might even be able to catch one of your favorite musical artists at the infamous local venue, Pappy and Harriet's.
Oh, I feel like that is just like a travel ad.
Yeah.
I know, right?
Very chic too. Like, not like your typical like cheesy Vegas.
Exactly. That's what I was going for.
Amazing.
So yeah, if you feel like you're strong at writing, then just go for it. But there's also, you could find somebody on Upwork or just outsource it if you're having trouble with it.
Katie, good for you for actually doing this, because it is one of those things that like I've heard for years. Like, yes, build that email list.
Yep.
But I haven't done anything about it, to be honest. Good for you.
Thank you.
Claps for you.
Golf claps. Golf claps. No, it is. It's just like if I ate, grilled chicken and broccoli every day, I would be a lot skinnier. I know I could do that, but yeah, it's just one of those things. You got to put on a list to do.
Got to do it.
Yeah, and I think you have to find like a fun thing. You have to find something that sounds kind of fun. So this to me sounded fun, and that's probably what inspired me to do it. So yeah.
And I do have a question for you, because this is one thing that I've struggled with a little bit, is you said that you're sending out weekly emails to like foster this group. Are you doing that? Like, did you sit down and write a whole bunch? Are you writing them a week at a time? I think that's where I've struggled, is like, once I have this list, being consistent with reaching out to them.
Sure. Yeah. So like I mentioned, I have this blog, archives of past podcast episodes. And so before I started writing anything new, I was really just trying to figure out what I could repurpose, because I have stuff. And I think sometimes that's where people get stuck. It's like, I have to like come up with this whole idea. Like, what am I going to say?
Right.
So I think that just repurposing what I had is a great start. Like, for example, I had a blog post about like staying at an Airbnb for your elopement, and like doing the elopement in the backyard or like something like that. So I did a whole podcast episode on Runaway together regarding that topic. And so I just linked to that blog post. I have like an Airbnb wish list for them. So that was one email. Another email was like tips for eloping in the time of COVID, which I also had a podcast interview on. And I think people like short and sweet, like if I get an email that's like a novel long, I'm not super inclined to read it.
My problem. I'm too wordy.
Oh, yeah. I think that the emails I like to receive are just like, a little bite size, like, oh yeah, thank you for that little reminder. Like I'm moving on to the next email. So I think if you can just write anything really, that provides value, especially.
These are all, I can see, Kimberly, the wheels are turning.
I know. It is just one of those, like, add it to the list of things to do.
Yeah.
But, there's some downtime happening in our world of events.
Exactly.
So,
but you know what?
If you're going to do it at any time, do it now.
If you have any like possible cash or budget to have someone do it for you, like Kaylee, or I work with another girl who does help me like transcribe my podcast episodes. Like there's so many people who can do this stuff for you, and once it's set up, it's done. Like it's not necessarily an ongoing project. So maybe just get someone to write it for you.
There you go. Love it. Well, Katie, thank you for joining us again for time number 2.
Yeah.
And we'll link to the software that you told us about, as well as the copywriter you told us about, and also your podcast so people can hear more about elopements.
I would love that. Thank you so much for having me back, and hope everybody makes some quizzes now.